Love can be complicated, but what happens when it crosses lines that should never be crossed? This is a chilling true story of a woman who fell for the teenage son of a best friend, a secret affair that tore apart families, shattered lives, and ended in a brutal pain that left scars no one could ever forget. What started as forbidden passion turned into a nightmare of betrayal and bloodshed. Stay with us as we uncover the shocking events behind the headlines, a story of love, lies, and deadly consequences. Lisa and Marianne have been inseparable for over a decade, the kind of best friend who knew each other's secrets, fears, and dreams without speaking a single word. Their bond was the envy of everyone who knew them, a shining example of what true friendship looked like. They met in college, instantly clicking through shared interests and values, and their friendship only deepened as the years went by. Marianne was a warm, compassionate woman with an infectious laugh and a nurturing spirit that made everyone feel safe. Lisa, on the other hand, carried a quiet strength beneath a calm exterior, a woman who had faced her own battles and emerged stronger each time. Together, they formed a perfect balance. Marianne's teenage son, Jake, was a bright-eyed boy with a promising future ahead of him. At 16, he was on the cusp of adulthood, but still clinging to the innocence of youth. Jake was tall, with unruly brown hair and a smile that could light up a room. To Lisa, he was like the little brother she never had, someone she had watched grow from a boy into a young man. Their families often spent weekends together, sharing dinners, watching movies, and celebrating holidays. Lisa was a constant presence in Jake's life, often stepping in as a mentor when Marianne was busy with work. The trio seemed like the perfect picture of harmony and love. But beneath this surface of warmth and laughter, cracks were beginning to form, cracks that no one saw coming. Lisa's life, despite the outward appearance of stability, was riddled with pain. Her marriage had been slowly crumbling for years, the silence between her and her husband growing heavier with every passing day. Lonely nights and unanswered questions filled her mind, and she struggled to find meaning in her daily routine. Marianne's friendship was the one thing that gave her comfort, a lifeline she clung to when everything else felt uncertain. Jake, too, was dealing with his own turmoil. The pressures of school, social expectations, and confusing changes of adolescence left him vulnerable and searching for understanding. Lisa's kindness felt like a beacon in the chaos of teenage life. At first, their relationship was innocent, just a supportive woman caring for a boy she loved like family. But subtle shifts began to emerge. A glance held a moment longer than necessary, a touch that lingered slightly too long. Moments so small and fleeting that no one would question them, except those involved. Lisa found herself thinking about Jake in ways she never expected. It was a confusing mix of admiration, affection, and something deeper she couldn't quite name. She told herself it was just a natural closeness born from years of friendship. But in the quiet corners of her mind, a dangerous spark flickered. Jake, for his part, was equally conflicted. He had grown to trust Lisa more than anyone else in his life. She listened when no one else did, understood when others judged, and gave him a sense of safety he desperately needed. But sometimes, when their eyes met, he felt something unspoken, a connection that went beyond friendship. Their dynamic was complex and fragile, and neither fully understood the consequences that awaited. As the months passed, Lisa's visits to Marianne's home became more frequent. She would stay late, helping Jake with homework or watching movies long after Marianne had gone to bed. On those quiet nights, they would talk about everything and nothing, sharing dreams and fears in the shadows. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the living room, Lisa and Jake sat side by side on the couch. The air was thick with unspoken words. Lisa glanced at Jake, noticing how the soft light played on his features, the curve of his jaw, the sparkle in his eyes. Her heart fluttered, and a wave of guilt washed over her. Jake caught her gaze and smiled shyly. "Thanks for always being here," he said softly. Lisa swallowed the lump in her throat. "Always," she replied. But that night, something changed. A subtle shift in the way they looked at each other, a silent acknowledgement that their relationship was no longer just the innocent bond it once was. Neither spoke of it, but the seed was planted. At school, Jake struggled to focus. Thoughts of Lisa intruded on his every moment. He felt ashamed and exhilarated all at once, unsure how to reconcile these feelings. His friends noticed a change in him, quieter, more distracted. But Jake kept his secret locked away, fearful of the consequences. Meanwhile, Lisa wrestled with her conscience. She knew the boundaries she was crossing, and every day the weight of her actions grew heavier. She avoided looking in the mirror, afraid of what she might see. The woman staring back was a stranger, torn between loyalty to Marianne, her own desires, and the danger of what could happen if the truth was revealed. Despite the growing tension, their lives continued to intertwine seamlessly during the day. Lisa would drop Jake off at school, chat with Marianne about trivial matters, and act as if nothing was wrong. But behind closed doors, the lines blurred. One rainy afternoon, Lisa and Jake found themselves alone in the kitchen. The sound of rain tapping against the windows filled the room. They talked quietly, the storm outside mirroring the turmoil in their hearts. Suddenly, Jake reached out, brushing a wet strand of hair from Lisa's face. His fingers lingered, and their eyes locked. It was a moment suspended in time, fragile, charged, and dangerous. Lisa pulled back quickly, guilt flooding her expression. "We can't. This isn't right," she whispered. Jake nodded, but his eyes betrayed his longing. The boundary had been tested, and nothing would ever be the same again. Days turned into weeks, and the secret between them grew like a shadow stretching across their lives. They met in hidden corners, exchanged coded messages, and shared stolen moments that no one else could know about. Lisa knew they were walking a tightrope over an abyss. One misstep could send them plummeting into ruin. Marianne remained oblivious, trusting Lisa implicitly. She confided in her about her hopes for Jake's future and the excitement of his upcoming high school graduation. Lisa smiled, hiding the guilt that gnawed at her soul. But secrets have a way of surfacing. One evening, as the three of them sat around the dinner table, Marianne noticed a tension between Lisa and Jake. A glance passed too quickly. A hand hesitated before reaching for a glass. She brushed it off, thinking it was just teenage nerves. Yet deep down, she sensed something was wrong. As Lisa lay in bed that night, staring at the ceiling, the weight of what she was doing crushed her. The woman who had once been full of hope and strength was now a prisoner of her own choices, trapped in a web of deceit that threatened to destroy everything she held dear. Jake, too, felt the strain. The boy who had once dreamed of a bright future now carried a secret that darkened every thought. Their perfect friendship had been shattered, replaced by a fragile, dangerous bond, one that would set in motion a chain of events no one could stop. The delicate balance that had sustained Lisa, Jake, and Marianne was unraveling with terrifying subtlety. The unspoken tension between Lisa and Jake thickened the air, wrapping their everyday interactions in an uneasy silence. Neither of them dared to confront the growing storm, instead burying their feelings beneath layers of guilt and fear. Marianne remained blissfully unaware, her trust in Lisa unshaken. She confided openly in her closest friend, sharing her dreams for Jake's future, her worries as a single mother, and her hopes for stability after years of struggle. Lisa listened with a practiced smile, the weight of her duplicity pressing heavier on her chest. At school, Jake drifted further into isolation. His grades began to slip, and his once vibrant demeanor faded into a quiet reserve. Teachers whispered about his distracted state. Friends noticed his reluctance to engage. Yet no one could penetrate the walls Jake had built around himself. Late one evening, Lisa sat alone in her dimly lit living room, the faint glow of a street lamp filtering through the curtains. Her mind churned with turmoil. The line between right and wrong blurred with each passing day, and the risk of discovery loomed like a specter in the background. Her thoughts returned to that rainy afternoon when Jake's touch had nearly shattered the fragile barrier between them. She had pulled away then, but the memory haunted her relentlessly. The desire that stirred within her felt both overwhelming and forbidden. Jake, too, wrestled with conflicting emotions. The innocence of adolescence was slipping away, replaced by a confusing blend of affection and shame. He found himself replaying moments with Lisa in his mind, trying to decipher what they meant, searching desperately for clarity. The secrecy they maintained began to consume them. They devised covert ways to communicate. Brief texts disguised as casual messages, passing notes with hidden meanings, fleeting glances exchanged when no one else was watching. Each interaction intensified the web of secrecy. One weekend, Marianne planned a family outing to celebrate Jake's upcoming birthday. Lisa eagerly volunteered to help with the preparations, masking her internal struggle beneath cheerful enthusiasm. The day was filled with laughter and warmth. But beneath the surface, the tension between Lisa and Jake simmered dangerously. During the celebration, a chance encounter altered everything. Marianne stepped away briefly to answer a phone call, leaving Lisa and Jake alone in the kitchen. The silence between them was palpable, charged with unsaid words. Jake nervously fidgeted, breaking the stillness. "Lisa, we can't keep doing this," he murmured, voice barely above a whisper. Lisa's heart pounded. "I know," she replied, eyes downcast. "But it's so hard to stop." A sudden noise startled them, Marianne returning unexpectedly. Their conversation was cut short, replaced by forced smiles and casual chatter. That night, Lisa's guilt became unbearable. She confided in her journal, pouring out the confusion and despair she felt. Writing became her only release, a way to confront the darkness creeping into her life without judgment. Meanwhile, Jake withdrew further, sinking into a shadowed place where hope seemed distant. The boy who once radiated joy now battled silent demons, afraid to reach out for help. As the days passed, Marianne began to notice subtle changes. Lisa's once vibrant spirit seemed dimmed, her eyes haunted by secrets. Jake grew more withdrawn, his laughter rarer and more fleeting. Concern gnawed at Marianne's heart, though she struggled to pinpoint the cause. One evening, Marianne stumbled upon a message on Jake's phone, a brief text from Lisa, cryptic and unsettling. Panic surged through her veins. Questions flooded her mind, but fear kept her silent. She wondered if she was imagining things, unwilling to shatter the fragile piece of their lives. Determined to protect her son, Marianne resolved to watch closely, searching for clues that would reveal the truth. She reached out to old friends for advice, seeking guidance on how to navigate the storm she sensed approaching. In the meantime, Lisa and Jake continued their dangerous dance, each step drawing them closer to a precipice from which there was no return. The secret they shared became a heavy burden, threatening to destroy not only their friendship but the entire foundation of their intertwined lives. The line between protector and transgressor blurred, leaving them trapped in a web of deception and desire. Every stolen moment was a risk, every whispered word potential betrayal. As shadows lengthened and days grew darker, the fragile illusion of normalcy shattered. The hidden truth, buried beneath layers of trust and affection, began to claw its way to the surface, threatening to expose everything. The atmosphere surrounding Lisa, Jake, and Marianne had shifted irrevocably, like the calm before a devastating storm. Marianne's intuition, once quiet and easily dismissed, now rang louder, warning her of danger lurking close. Her maternal instincts sharpened, demanding answers she was unprepared to face. Lisa found herself increasingly on edge, the burden of concealment growing heavier with each passing day. Her carefully constructed facade cracked, revealing glimpses of vulnerability to those closest around her. The fear of exposure gnawed relentlessly, robbing her of sleep and peace. Meanwhile, Jake spiraled into an abyss of conflicted emotions. The once carefree teenager now grappled with shame and confusion, caught between loyalty to his mother and an inexplicable attachment to Lisa. His internal battle left him fractured, unable to reconcile the love he sought with the reality he faced. At school, whispers began to circulate. Rumors, born from small observations and half-heard conversations, started to spread like wildfire. Jake's withdrawal did not go unnoticed by classmates or teachers. Yet no one could quite articulate what was wrong, only sensing profound change in his demeanor. One afternoon, Marianne decided to confront Lisa, hoping to understand the cause of her friend's distant behavior. They met at a quaint cafe, the quiet chatter of other patrons providing a stark contrast to the storm brewing between them. Marianne's eyes searched Lisa's face, seeking the truth hidden beneath a forced smile. "Is something going on?" she asked gently. "You haven't been yourself lately." Lisa's heart pounded. The truth hovered on her lips, but fear silenced her. Instead, she offered a vague response, hoping to deflect suspicion. "I'm just stressed with everything," she murmured. "Planning the birthday party. Work, life, you know how it is." Marianne nodded slowly, but her doubts lingered. She resolved to keep a closer watch, unwilling to let her son's well-being slip through her fingers. Back at home, Jake's struggles intensified. The pressure of maintaining appearances was suffocating. He longed to confide in someone but feared judgment and rejection. The secret he carried isolated him further, eroding his sense of self. In the quiet of the night, Jake found solace in music, drowning out the noise inside his head with melodies that spoke of pain and hope. His journal, once a place of innocent reflections, now brimmed with anguished entries detailing his inner turmoil. Lisa, too, sought refuge in solitude. Her once lively home became a sanctuary for whispered confessions and silent tears. The duality of her existence, devoted friend and forbidden lover, tore her apart from within. As days turned into weeks, Marianne's vigilance paid off. She noticed subtle signs, a lingering glance, a hesitant word, a misplaced object that hinted at the unraveling secret. Determined to protect her son, she began discreetly questioning those around Jake, seeking clarity amid the growing confusion. Tensions mounted during family gatherings, where forced smiles masked the invisible rift. Lisa's presence became increasingly strained, the weight of her secret making genuine connection impossible. Jake's silence spoke volumes, his eyes reflecting a pain too deep for words. One fateful evening, Marianne discovered a message on Jake's phone that shattered her world. The cryptic text from Lisa contained words that confirmed her worst fears. Confrontation was inevitable. With trembling hands and a heart heavy with dread, Marianne approached Lisa. The confrontation was raw and painful, shattering years of friendship in moments. Denials gave way to tears and confessions, revealing a tangled web of emotions and mistakes. The revelation sent shockwaves through their lives. Trust, once a foundation of their relationships, lay in ruins. Marianne struggled to reconcile the woman she had loved for years with a betrayal now laid bare. Jake, caught in the eye of the storm, felt the ground beneath him collapse. The safety of family and friendship was replaced by suspicion and hurt. He wrestled with guilt for the pain his actions had caused and fear of what the future held. As the truth emerged from the shadows, the fragile bonds that connected Lisa, Jake, and Marianne began to fray. The consequences of their choices loomed large, threatening to engulf them in a cycle of pain and regret. In the wake of the revelation, each was forced to confront their own demons. Lisa faced the weight of her actions and the impossible task of seeking forgiveness. Jake grappled with the loss of innocence and the challenge of rebuilding his life. Marianne confronted betrayal and the shattering of trust. Their lives, once intertwined by love and friendship, now stood on the edge of destruction. The journey ahead promised no easy answers, only the harsh reality of consequences and the struggle to heal wounds inflicted by secrets kept too long. The delicate balance between love, loyalty, and deception had finally collapsed under the unbearable weight of truth. What had once seemed like a complicated secret was now a devastating revelation that fractured every relationship involved. The aftermath left a trail of shattered trust and escalating tensions. Marianne's heartbreak morphed into fierce determination. The protective instinct she had always held for her son transformed into a relentless quest for justice. She refused to let the betrayal go unanswered, driven by a maternal fury that simmered beneath a composed exterior. Lisa, overwhelmed by guilt and fear, found herself spiraling into a state of panic. The walls of her once orderly life crumbled as the reality of exposure closed in. Paranoia set in. Every glance from a neighbor or whisper from a passerby felt like an accusation. She became a prisoner of her own conscience, haunted by the choices that had led to this catastrophe. Jake's emotional turmoil deepened. The sense of isolation became suffocating, and with the pressure mounting, he sought refuge in darker places. Despite clung to him like a shadow, and his once bright future appeared bleak and uncertain. The boy who had been full of life was now a stranger to himself. The tension reached a boiling point one fateful night when a heated argument erupted between Lisa and Marianne. Words, sharp and unrelenting, flew with the force of years of pent-up pain and betrayal. Accusations were hurled, voices cracked with anguish, and long-hidden resentments exploded into the open. The confrontation marked a turning point. No longer could the tangled emotions be contained beneath polite facades and forced civility. The damage was done, and the consequences would be irreversible. Jake, witnessing the destruction of his family's bonds, was caught in a tempest of confusion and fear. The man he had admired in Lisa was now a source of anguish, and the woman who had raised him was consumed by rage and heartbreak. Torn between two worlds, he felt adrift with nowhere to turn. As days passed, the psychological strain became unbearable. Lisa's fragile mental state deteriorated rapidly. Sleep eluded her, replaced by nightmares that replayed the faces of those she had hurt. Her days were a haze of regret and hopelessness, each moment heavier than the last. Desperation led Lisa down a dangerous path. Isolation became her refuge, and with it came reckless decisions driven by fear and despair. Friends who once offered comfort found themselves pushed away as she retreated deeper into herself. Marianne, meanwhile, sought counsel and support, determined to shield Jake from further harm. She enlisted the help of close friends and professionals, navigating the complex emotions that came with such a profound betrayal. Yet despite her efforts, the scars left on her family were evident to all who looked closely. Jake's school performance plummeted. His social life evaporated, and his once lively spirit was replaced by a haunting silence. Teachers grew concerned, and counselors offered aid, but the wounds he carried were not easily healed. One evening, the fragile equilibrium shattered completely. In a moment charged with desperation and anger, Lisa and Jake's relationship spiraled out of control. An argument ignited over a seemingly minor disagreement, but beneath the surface lay the fury and pain of months of hidden turmoil. The confrontation escalated rapidly, words turning into physical conflict. The tension that had been simmering beneath the surface exploded with tragic force, leaving both irreparably damaged. Neighbors, alerted by the noise, called authorities who arrived to a scene of chaos and heartbreak. The consequences of forbidden love had reached a horrifying climax, leaving everyone involved forever changed. In the aftermath, the community struggled to comprehend the tragedy. Questions hung heavy in the air. How had a relationship so fraught with danger been allowed to fester? What signs had been missed? And most hauntingly, what could have prevented such devastation? Marianne faced the impossible task of rebuilding a fractured family, while Jake wrestled with physical and emotional wounds that would take years to mend. Lisa's fate remained uncertain, her future clouded by the choices that had led to irreversible consequences. The story that began with whispers of affection and secret meetings had transformed into a brutal lesson about the dangers of crossing boundaries and the devastating impact of betrayal. The scars left behind were not only physical but etched deep into the souls of those who survived. As the dust settled, one truth remained clear. Some lines, once crossed, leave wounds too deep to ever truly heal. The cost of forbidden desire had been paid in full, with lives shattered trust destroyed, and a lifetime of scars. In the wake of tragedy, silence descended like a heavy fog over the once vibrant lives of those involved. The community that had been rocked by the brutal fallout found itself grappling with questions it could not easily answer. How could a friendship dissolve into such devastation? How does one mend a soul fractured by betrayal and loss? Marianne became a pillar of resilience amidst the chaos. Despite the heartache that threatened to consume her, she refused to be broken. Her days were filled with hospital visits, legal battles, and countless sleepless nights, all driven by a mother's unwavering love. She fought not just for Jake's physical recovery, but for his shattered spirit, determined to restore what had been lost. Jake's rehabilitation was arduous. Physical wounds gradually healed, but the emotional trauma lingered stubbornly. Each therapy session peeled back layers of pain, exposing raw wounds beneath. The boy who once found joy in simple pleasures now struggled to trust, to feel safe, and to envision a future free from shadows. Meanwhile, Lisa's world had crumbled entirely. Isolated and haunted by her actions, she faced the consequences with a mixture of remorse and defiance. Her legal proceedings became a public spectacle, a harsh reminder of the fine line between desire and destruction. As the courtroom drama unfolded, a complex portrait of a woman torn between passion and madness emerged. Friends and family wrestled with their own grief. Trust, once a given, now felt fragile and precarious. Conversations that once brought comfort turned into difficult confrontations, as each person struggled to come to terms with their own pain and guilt. The community rallied around Marianne and Jake, offering support in countless small acts of kindness. Yet the invisible wounds remained, a silent reminder how deeply one person's choices could ripple through the lives of many. School became a battleground for Jake's recovery. Classmate stays and whispered rumors made reintegration difficult. Teachers adapted with patience and understanding, but the scars of trauma manifested in moments of withdrawal and anxiety. Yet, amid the struggle, sparks of hope began to flicker. Marianne's advocacy extended beyond her family. She began speaking publicly about the dangers of secrecy, betrayal, and the importance of open communication. Her voice, once trembling with grief, grew strong and determined, becoming a beacon for others facing similar hardships. Therapy sessions became a cornerstone for healing. Jake, Marianne, and even extended family members found themselves confronting buried emotions, learning to navigate the complex aftermath of trauma. Healing was neither linear nor swift. It was a mosaic of progress and setbacks. Meanwhile, Lisa faced an uncertain future. Her time behind bars was marked by reflection and occasional outbursts of despair. Letters from Marianne were met with silence, the gulf between them too vast a bridge. Yet beneath the surface, seeds of remorse took root. As months turned to years, the raw edges of pain began to soften, replaced by a cautious optimism. Jake slowly reclaimed pieces of his identity. His laughter returned, friendships mended, and dreams rekindled. The path was far from easy, but each step forward was a triumph over darkness. Marianne's relentless commitment transformed her into a community advocate and counselor, dedicating her life to helping those shattered by betrayal and violence. Her story became a powerful testament to human strength and the possibility of renewal. The shadow of that fateful relationship lingered, a constant reminder of the dangers of crossing forbidden boundaries. But in the ruins, new foundations were laid, built on honesty, forgiveness, and the hard-won lessons of a painful past. The scars, both visible and invisible, remained as testament to survival. But within those marks lay a message of resilience, a narrative of hope that even in the darkest chapters, healing is possible. Years after the horrific events that shattered so many lives, the echoes of that dark chapter still reverberated, shaping futures in ways few could have foreseen. What began as a secret, fueled by forbidden passion, had transformed into a legacy of pain, resilience, and unexpected redemption. Marianne had emerged as an emblem of strength, her journey from despair to determination inspiring countless others. Her unwavering dedication to advocacy transformed her into a voice for victims of betrayal and abuse, one who spoke with honesty and compassion about the complexities of human relationships. Her work led to the establishment of community programs focused on healing, education, and prevention, turning her personal tragedy into a beacon of hope. Jake, now stepping cautiously into adulthood, carried with him both the weight of his past and the promise of his future. The physical scars had faded, but the emotional ones remained deeply etched. Yet, through counseling and the steadfast support of those who loved him, he learned to confront his fears and reclaim control over his narrative. His story became a powerful example of resilience, demonstrating that even the darkest experiences could be transformed through courage and perseverance. Lisa's path was far more complicated. Her years behind bars forced a confrontation with the consequences of her actions. Stripped of freedom, she wrestled with remorse and denial in equal measure. The isolation offered time for reflection, though whether true repentance blossomed remained a matter of speculation. Her name became synonymous with cautionary tales, a stark reminder how passion unrestrained could lead to ruin. The community that once buzzed with gossip and speculation now sought healing in unity. Schools implemented programs addressing emotional well-being and boundaries, while neighbors came together to support those affected by the trauma. The fractures caused by betrayal slowly mended, strengthened by collective empathy and understanding. The lingering question of forgiveness hung in the air, an intangible but essential part of the healing process. Marianne wrestled with this daily, grappled with the pain inflicted by someone she once called a friend, yet striving to find peace for her own sake and for Jake's future. Over time, the family's story became more than just a recounting of sorrow. It evolved into a testament of survival, illustrating the capacity of the human spirit to endure and rebuild. Each milestone, a birthday celebrated, a graduation achieved, a quiet moment of peace, was a victory over the shadows cast by that brutal night. Memories, once sources of anguish, gradually transformed into lessons. Marianne and Jake found solace in sharing their experiences with others, their openness helping to break the silence surrounding similar tragedies. They became advocates for awareness, working tirelessly to prevent such heartbreak from recurring in other lives. Though the scars left behind would never fully disappear, they served as reminders of strength forged in adversity. The painful past shaped but did not define their future. Instead, it fueled a commitment to truth, healing, and the pursuit of a life reclaimed from darkness. In the end, the tale of Marianne, Jake, and Lisa was a complex tapestry woven from threads of love, betrayal, pain, and redemption. It was a story that cautioned, educated, and ultimately inspired, proving that even in the aftermath of horror, there remains a possibility of light. This tragic tale reminds us that some secrets are too dangerous to keep, and some betrayals cut deeper than any wound. Marianne, Jake, and Lisa's story is a haunting reminder of how choices can change lives forever. If you found this story compelling, please like, share, and subscribe for more real-life stories that explore the darkest corners of human nature. And remember, behind every headline, there's a story, sometimes far more complicated than it seems.